We are here today. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. I can't hear myself though. Let me see if I can plug this in. I think it goes here at the bottom so I can hear myself. But I can't even hear myself. All right, so we're talking about the importance of testing. All right, and this is going to be step number one in your journey. So when you start learning English, a lot of people ask themselves, well, where do I start? How do I get started? How do I start learning English, or what should I do, and stuff like that. And I remember I had the same issue when I got started. When I first arrived here in Italy, that was 2014. It was June. Yeah, it was June of 2014 is when I first arrived here. And I had nowhere to go. I was working, I was teaching English, I was working at the school, I was traveling, and I needed an Italian teacher to teach me Italian, but it was almost impossible to learn Italian because I was traveling around Milan. So I was going from different businesses and I was teaching business English. So, for example, I would work with banks. I would work with these big corporations, and I had to travel around the city, right? And so if I had, I would work with presidents and CEOs, but I didn't have time to learn Italian. And so I said, okay, well, how do I get started? And of course, many of you guys know about Duolingo, right? Because I saw that one of my mentors had used Duolingo to learn language. So I said, okay, well, let me try this thing called Duolingo. But what happened was I had used Duolingo for too long. Okay, I used Duolingo for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I still use it for Spanish. But I spent maybe a year, 9 months, too long. Okay, just using Duolingo. And so that's my first point today is you have to test yourself. I would say you have to test yourself every 3 to 6 months to check your level, okay? And I wrote down some points here of why you need to test yourself. This is the first step. And at the end, I'm going to give you guys a link so that you can test yourself, so that you can see your English level. And the reason why that's important is you don't know if you're wasting time or not. I don't want you guys to spend 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, being stuck at the same level. So I'm going to give you a link that you can use to test yourself so that you don't waste time like I did. So step number one is you need to test yourself. I'm going to send you a link. Here we go. I'm going to put it inside of the comments. And with this, you will be able to get a level. So if you are, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the CEFR scale. So what does that mean? So, you have A0, A1, A2, B1, B2, and so forth and so on. And once you know your level, then you can find the right strategy. Okay, I'm going to paste it here. Yeah, once you know your level, you can find the right strategy to get to the next level. Okay, so I put down in the comments below, the first step that you need to do is you need to take a test. And why is that important? Well, the first step, or one of the biggest benefits, is it saves time. Okay, it saves time. Many of my students, they've practiced English in the past, and many of them have practiced English for thousands of hours. I would say anywhere from 600 all the way up to 18,000 hours of exposure to the language. Can you imagine 18,000 hours? So the first step is to take a test so that you're not wasting time at the same level doing the same old thing over and over and over and over and over. Okay, so the first benefit is it saves time. And you should be testing yourself every 3 to 6 months. Okay, so use this link to test yourself. And, send me your results from the test. Send me a photo of your results. And also, you guys can ask me questions. This is more of an interactive call. So if you guys have questions or comments, it's not just going to be me teaching. I'm going to teach, but it's going to be interactive at the same time. So it saves time is number one. And I told you about my story with Duolingo. So with Duolingo, I spent too long. Hey, Joseph, I spent too long on Duolingo doing the same thing over and over and over. Number two is it gives you a starting point. All right, so if I know my level is B1 or B1.2, then I can focus on the right grammar. Okay, I can focus on the right grammar, the right vocabulary, the right expressions, so forth and so on. Because when you reach, let's say from A0 to B1.2, you can use Duolingo, that's okay. Right around B1, B1.2, B2, you have to change your strategy. So the strategies change as you go higher. And so that's why it's so important to take a test so that you can know which strategies to use. Number three, again, yeah, I told you, number three is you can focus on the right grammar and you can focus on the right strategies. Okay, so use the link again to take the test. And then number four is it reduces frustration and anxiety. Okay, it reduces frustration and anxiety. So, once I remember for me, when I started learning Italian, I was just like, where do I start? Right? I don't even know what to do. Okay. I made so many mistakes. I made too many mistakes. And one of my biggest mistakes was I focused too much on reading and writing. And that's a big mistake a lot of language learners make. I Bang B, he's asking, is Duolingo not good enough? Duolingo is great until B1.2. Okay, once you reach B1.2, anything above B1.2, good question, by the way. Anything above B1.2, okay, it's time to change. I don't recommend Duolingo after B1.2. For now, if your level is A0 to B1.2, Duolingo is perfect, okay? It gives you vocabulary, grammar, and it's good for review, okay? So even for my B1.2 students, I use Duolingo, okay? After B1.2, then it's time to do something else. And I prefer, if you focus on specific grammatical structures. So, B2, C1, C2, you focus on the grammar and more like fluency, okay? And so for me personally, I wasted so much time with Duolingo after B1.2. So I don't want to see you guys doing that. Again, Duolingo is great. Once you reach B2, you have to do something else. And a lot of my students, they made the same mistakes that I made, where they focused on just the reading and just the writing, but they forget about the speaking and the listening. Okay, so you have to focus on all four abilities: reading, writing, speaking, listening. And then, so number one the first step is take the test. Okay. Number two, or the first benefit is it saves time. Number two, it gives you a starting point. Number three is it allows you to focus on the right grammar and the right strategy. 4, it reduces frustration and anxiety. And then number 5, it gives you clarity. Okay, so taking a test gives you clarity on what you should do. Okay, so you need a step-by-step plan in order to reach the higher levels, but also for your fluency. Okay, so a lot of students, they watch TV or they watch films or Netflix. I mean, that's okay, but it's a passive way of learning. So you need both you need knowledge of the language, but also fluency exercises. Okay, and then the test is, or taking a test is, the foundation. And now it's your turn. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to like your comment here. Thanks, I Bang B. If you guys have any questions, what other questions do you guys have for me? What questions do you have for me? I'll spend a few minutes answering any questions that you have. So I'll wait a little bit here. If not, I will continue with my day. Yeah, I think that's it for now. If not, if you guys don't have any questions, I'll be back here again tomorrow with step number 2 on what you should do for your fluency journey in English. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.